Keely Rodni was a teenager whose life ended after what should have been an ordinary summer night with friends. She attended a party deep in the Tahoe National Forest after wrapping up her final school commitments early. Authorities say she left sometime in the early morning hours of August 6, 2022. After that moment, no one saw her again. Keely had grown up surrounded by people who cared about her. She was bright, imaginative, and looking forward to what came next. College was just around the corner and she wanted to soak up the last few weeks of freedom before everything changed. Nobody imagined that a casual gathering so close to home could end the way it did. When Keely didn't arrive the next morning to meet her closest friends as planned, alarm bells went off immediately. The community mobilized. Volunteers joined law enforcement in a search that stretched on for days. But what they eventually discovered was far worse than anyone had prepared for. Friday, August 5th, the Tahoe National Forest was alive with late summer energy. The sky was clear, the air warm, and if you looked far enough, you could see all the way toward Mount Shasta. Wildflowers still dotted the landscape, remnants of the previous year's fires. School was about to resume, and everyone wanted one last taste of freedom. Keely had finished high school ahead of schedule, an achievement her family celebrated with pride. She was set to begin classes at Sierra College the following week. That afternoon, she spent time with friends, made creme brulee, and soaked in the simplicity of the day. Later, she drove out to a summer send-off party at Prosser Campground, roughly 40 minutes from Reno and just 15 minutes from her house. Locals called it the Sanctuary, a wide, secluded lake where teenagers gathered before scattering off to new schools and new beginnings. Keely had made plans to meet her best friends the next morning at 9. She never showed. In fact, nobody saw her again after the night of August 5th. She'd been raised in Truckee, California by her parents Lindsay and Daniel, who loved her deeply. Her younger brother idolized her. He thought she was the best person he knew. The family lived slightly outside town in a more rural part of Truckee, a lifestyle many in mountain communities would describe as off-grid. Keely seemed to thrive there. She was known for being warm and easygoing. The surroundings suited her personality. She'd been excited about the weekend for days, especially the camping party. When she left home around 6 that evening, her parents had no reason to worry. It was the last time they'd see her. Not long after leaving, she stopped at a gas station in Truckee, halfway between home and the campsite. Wait. Surveillance footage shows her moving through the aisles briefly before heading back out. A few hours later, around 10 at night, she arrived at the campsite with her friend Magdalene. There, they met up with another friend named Sammy. Keely and Sammy spent most of the night together, drinking, talking, drifting in and out of conversations with other people around them. The party ballooned quickly. What started as a small local gathering turned into something much larger as word spread. Estimates put the crowd somewhere between 200 and 300 teenagers. Because of wildfire restrictions, no campfires were allowed. The entire area was dark except for glow sticks, electric candles, and the glow from open car trunks. This wasn't Keely's first party like this. When her mother later spoke to reporters, she emphasized that Keely never drank and drove. She was careful, responsible, and her friends confirmed it. They'd never seen her get behind the wheel after drinking. That's why Lindsay felt comfortable letting her go that night. Around 11, the girls went to Keely's silver Honda CR-V to charge her phone. They sat inside for a while, sharing drinks and talking. At some point, Sammy asked if Keely could give her a ride home later. Meanwhile, Lindsay received a text from Keely around 11:30 saying she'd be heading home soon. Lindsay trusted her. Keely had worked hard to graduate early with honors. She'd earned that trust. So Lindsay texted back, telling her to be safe and that she loved her. Keely responded, "Okay, I love you too." Between 11:30 and 12:20, Sammy realized Keely was too drunk to drive her home, so she arranged another ride. After that, the two friends separated. Sammy later told police she said goodbye to Keely around 12:25. Just a few minutes later, at 12:36, Sammy got another call from Keely asking about her ride. From the voices in the background, Sammy assumed Keely was still at the party, though she couldn't be sure. She had no idea that this would be the last conversation anyone would have with Keely The next morning when Lindsay woke up, she noticed Keely wasn't in her room and her car wasn't in the driveway. After trying to reach her several times with no response, Lindsay contacted police immediately to report her missing. Authorities didn't issue an Amber Alert. They said there wasn't enough evidence to prove she'd been abducted or was in immediate danger. They searched the area around the party and interviewed roughly a third of the people who'd been there. Police asked everyone who attempted to come forward, but many of the teenagers hesitated. A lot of them were about to start college and were worried that admitting what they'd done at the party might cause problems down the road. Officers made it clear they weren't interested in charging anyone. They just wanted to find Keely. Even with that assurance, most people chose to stay silent. As word of Keely's disappearance spread, the silence persisted. Out of more than 200 partygoers, not a single person reported seeing anything unusual. Yet Keely and her car were gone. It didn't add up. Trying to help, Sammy organized a private meeting with everyone who'd been at the party. She didn't invite law enforcement because she wanted people to feel safe enough to speak openly. But even then, nothing useful emerged. Sammy also told police multiple times that she believed she was the last person to see Keely. She and a few of Keely's other friends mentioned that some older boys at the party had made them uncomfortable, which is part of why they decided to leave. According to Sammy, a few people even laughed at them as they walked away. The group of friends had a simple rule: never leave anyone behind, especially if that person had been drinking, and especially with older guys around making some of the younger girls uneasy. Sammy also noted that even though there were countless photos and videos from that night, none of them helped clarify where Keely went or what condition she was in before she disappeared. At first, police didn't have much to go on. A few days into the investigation, they confirmed that Keely's phone last connected to cellular data at 12:33 in the morning, right around the time she called Sammy. After that, everything went dark. With no new leads, the search essentially started from that final phone connection. Because Sammy had spent most of the evening with Keely, she quickly became a central figure in the case and ended up speaking to the media several times. It was already known that someone had offered to drive Keely home when she appeared intoxicated, but she declined. When Sammy was asked what she thought might have happened, one of the first theories was that Keely may have crashed on her way back. The roads in that area are steep, narrow, and difficult to navigate, especially late at night and especially after drinking. Both Sammy and Jagger, who was reportedly Keely's ex-boyfriend, joined the search efforts and were active online trying to gather information. But their interviews and public statements raised eyebrows among many people following the case. Rumors spread quickly about the relationships between Keely, Sammy, and Jagger. A lot of people online argued that Sammy and Keely weren't actually close, pointing out that they didn't follow each other on social media. Others noticed that Sammy was connected to Jagger, which fueled even more speculation. Then things escalated when Sammy and Jagger started asking people to send tips directly to them instead of reporting them to police. They said they'd filter the information before passing it along. Many people saw this as strange and potentially suspicious. Combined with Sammy's inconsistent public statements, this led some to believe she might have been involved or withholding something. Jagger also posted publicly asking anyone with information to contact him. On August 11th, the Placer County Sheriff's Department stepped in on Twitter to clarify that they had never authorized Jagger to collect witness statements or evidence. They wanted it made clear that all information should go directly to law enforcement. But instead of calming things down, that announcement only intensified the scrutiny on Sammy and Jagger, especially once photos and videos from the party began circulating and being turned over to detectives. The search for Keely Rodni grew more difficult with each passing day. By August 12th, 2022, police and volunteers were checking her home, retracing her steps, and searching every location she'd been the night she vanished. At a town hall meeting the following week, the Placer County Sheriff's Office outlined how far the search had expanded, stretching north to Sierraville, east to Verde, and covering the entire Truckee area to the south and west, even past Jackson Meadows Reservoir. Altogether, the search radius covered roughly 25 miles from where she was last seen. Local volunteers believe that neither Keely nor her car was still in the Tahoe National Forest. The forest covers more than 800,000 acres with steep terrain, dense woods, and a mix of rivers and lakes. It's a massive, complicated area to search. But by that point, many felt that if she were somewhere out there, they would have found at least some trace of her. Meanwhile, the conversations online only intensified. People kept digging into her relationships with Jagger, Sammy, and others from the party. Most were afraid of what the outcome might be, but they were still hoping for good news. Police continued sorting through tips and fragments of information. At a press conference on August 12th, they revealed that they'd received reports of an adult telling people not to speak to investigators. In response, they set up a fully anonymous online portal where the public could upload photos, videos, and anything else that might help. By this point, the case felt more confusing than ever. It seemed obvious that someone out there knew something and might be trying to keep it quiet. The next day, on August 13th, police held another press conference. Public Information Officer Angela Musalam announced that search efforts were being ramped up for the weekend. She also revealed that on August 12th, a ground search team had found what they thought might be a possible burial site near the campground. Keely's family was notified immediately, and investigators from the FBI, along with deputies from Placer and Nevada County, headed to the site to examine it more closely. After investigating the area, they learned that the burial site was actually the remains of a dog. During a public update, Angela Musalam stressed, "Let me be clear. We have one team, one mission, and one goal, and that's to find Keely Rodni." 9 days into the investigation, the Placer County Sheriff's Office was still working through more than 720 leads, hoping one of them would finally point them in the right direction. Meanwhile, people across the country were glued to the case, sharing theories online and hoping for any small breakthrough. Some tried to keep things simple, leaning on the idea that the most straightforward explanation is often correct. But as time passed and the accident theory seemed less likely, the questions only multiplied. How does someone disappear from a crowded party without anyone noticing? What else could have happened? For over 2 weeks, Keely's family had no answers. Her friends were being accused of everything from hiding information to outright involvement, all while police continued to search day and night. Then, finally, something changed. On August 21st, 2022, Adventures with Purpose, a YouTube group known for solving cold cases through underwater searches, located Keely Rodni's silver Honda CR-V in Prosser Reservoir. The team had been invited to help soon after she went missing, and according to them, they were more than willing to get involved. When they arrived, officials told them the reservoir had already been thoroughly checked by dive teams and nothing had turned up, which made what happened next even more unexpected. At 10:40 that morning, ETB began scanning Prosser Reservoir. They used 2 boats equipped with sonar, and by 11:15, one of the devices picked up a large object about 55 feet from shore and only 14 feet of water. Diver Nick went in to confirm using a Garmin sonar system and verified it was Keely's car by checking the license plate. A body was found in the cargo area. APA pointed out that the sonar they used, a Garmin EchoMap Ultra, costs around $2,500. For a department the size of Placer County, that's not an unreasonable purchase, and it raised a lot of questions about why the initial searches hadn't found the vehicle. If a YouTube team can buy sonar equipment that works this well, it naturally makes people wonder, why aren't local search and rescue teams using it more often? And with the FBI involved, an agency known for having access to advanced tools, it raised even more questions about how Keely's car went undetected for 2 weeks. After the vehicle was found, Adventures with Purpose posted an update on Facebook explaining how the search unfolded. They said they reached out to law enforcement first because they were coordinating closely with them during the mission. But at a press conference the next day, a sheriff's department spokesperson said the opposite. That app never contacted them, and that police had been the ones to initiate communication. That conflicting information made a lot of people pause, especially because EdQP has built a strong reputation for being transparent and reliable. Some even wondered if local authorities were trying to avoid embarrassment over missing the vehicle. Finding Keely's car was heartbreaking for her family and the entire community, and when officials confirmed that the body inside the cargo area was hers, the tragedy felt even heavier. Many people assumed the case would end there. But what happened next only raised more questions about how the search had been handled. Doug and Nick from Adventures with Purpose explained that their work is highly specialized and that they consider it a privilege to assist police departments across the country, including the FBI. Still, once word spread about how quickly they found Keely's car, less than 2 hours, the public couldn't ignore the contrast. Multiple agencies had searched that same area for 2 weeks, yet OPI located the car almost immediately. The SUV was upside down in a spot that had supposedly been checked repeatedly, which led to honest concerns about the thoroughness and effectiveness of the original search. To add to the confusion, a trail camera nearby captured what looked like a car driving straight into the water at 12:32 in the morning on August 6th, the exact location where Keely's vehicle was later recovered and where her phone last pinged. Local authorities said they spent more than 15,000 man-hours looking for her, but another team found her car in under 2 hours in the same place. Aerial footage even shows something in the water at the location where her car and body were eventually found. This brings up a lot of questions. If aerial searches were conducted, how was the car missed? And if Keely really drove into the water, her tires would have left tracks in the sand. Her mom reported her missing less than 12 hours later. So how were those tracks not spotted? As we mentioned earlier, Doug Bishop from OPP said he had serious doubts about how this all happened. He pointed out that Keely was a smart kid getting ready for college, and she disappeared from a crowded party only to be found a short distance away. He also stressed that there was only one way in and out of that area, and Keely knew it well. It wasn't the kind of place where you could accidentally make a wrong turn. The road where her car ended up required a sharp left onto a rough, four-wheel drive dirt path. If she somehow turned onto it, she would have realized immediately that she wasn't on the main road anymore, which makes the crash even harder to understand. Bishop also thought it was strange that Keely's body was found in the cargo area of the SUV. The only way that would make sense is if she had enough time to move there herself, but if the windows were closed, that would mean the car filled with water slowly. When OPP found the vehicle, several windows were down, which means the car would have filled up quickly, leaving almost no time to climb to the back. And even if she did have that time, why would she go there? Escaping through an open window would have been the fastest way out. The pieces just don't fit neatly. According to news reports, more than 400 people die every year when their cars go underwater. Survival usually depends on getting out before the vehicle fully sinks, which often happens in under a minute. Experts say to roll the windows down immediately and get out through the front windows. Every second counts. But that only adds more questions to Keely's situation. The driver's window and other windows were partially down when the car was recovered, yet she was found in the back of the vehicle. On top of that, the driver's side mirror was snapped off and there was a dent in the driver's door, damage that wasn't on the car when she left home. Where did that come from? Typically, cars pulled from the water don't show that kind of damage. And with more than 200 people at that party, it's hard not to wonder how nobody heard a car go into the water. A lot of things still don't make sense. But eventually, Keely's autopsy report came out, and while it answered some questions, those answers were tough for many people to accept. On October 13, 2022, the autopsy officially ruled her death an accident. The cause was listed as drowning. That conclusion surprised a lot of people, especially locals who were already skeptical, because the town's police chief and coroner were reportedly the same person. Some residents believe that certain cases get labeled as accidents to protect the area's reputation. Since tourism is a major part of the economy, a high crime rate could scare visitors away. When Keely was found, she was fully clothed with no signs of assault. Her toxicology report showed caffeine, nicotine, and small amounts of THC. Her liver tissue showed a blood alcohol level of 0.08, right at the legal limit. But many experts point out that alcohol can form after death, so that number isn't always a reliable indicator of whether someone was actually drinking. The surrounding roads are another factor. They're dark, twisty, unmarked dirt paths. Even if Keely knew the area, it's still worth asking, could she really have taken a wrong turn and ended up in the water? And if so, why didn't she escape through one of the open windows? The autopsy also raised another issue. There was no water in her lungs. In drowning cases, the lungs are usually heavier because they fill with water, but the medical examiner noted that her lung weights were unusually low, barely enough to support drowning as the cause of death. Detective Sunier said the case had to be ruled an accident because there wasn't any clear evidence of foul play. But when you look at all the inconsistencies, it's fair to wonder whether investigators were thorough enough or whether something was overlooked, especially considering that Keely's car was eventually found in a spot authorities had claimed they searched multiple times. For Keely's friends and family, not knowing what really happened leaves a hole that may never fully heal. That kind of uncertainty is painful, and it's hard to imagine ever finding peace without the answers. Even so, there's an important lesson we can take from this tragedy. Never leave a friend behind. This heartbreaking outcome might have been preventable. And while we can't change what happened, it has already taught lessons to police, to those at the party, and to the wider true crime community. Keely didn't have to die that night. But if her story can serve as a warning, maybe it can help prevent something similar from happening to someone else. If you found this case compelling, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We post true crime cases every night. Until next time, stay alert.